Thank you, everyone, for joining our webinar today. This is Natasha Telger. I'm with Illinois WorkNet, and we also have Chelsea Jones. She's with Illinois WorkNet as well. So if you have any questions during the webinar, you can type those into the chat, and Chelsea will respond to them or pull them off to the side to bring my attention to it, and make sure I address it. If you are new to our webinars, in the upper right-hand corner of where the PowerPoint is, you'll see there's an icon with 4 arrows that are pointing to each corner. If you select that icon, it will expand that portion of the webinar to full screen. And to get it back to the size it is right now, you just click on that icon again. In the lower left-hand corner, we have some files that you can download. Those are the files that we'll be referring to today. And you can download those at any time, and they're also available on the Youth Apprenticeship Career Pathways Partner Guide. So we'll take a look at that in just a moment as well. So today, what we're going to talk about, we're going to take a look at the suitability process flow just to kind of, see where we are, how the tools fit in, and where we're going. We're going to talk about the training program information where you put that information in there, give you an opportunity to ask some questions and tell you about some updates that are being made to that section. Then we are going to take a look at the suitability application and talk about the interim suitability process and then what are our next steps. Okay, so if you were with us last week, I updated the suitability process flow overview just a little bit. I wanted to point out that on August 16th, last week, we talked about adding training program information. And with that information includes location, description, delivery, career pathway information, the outcomes, and then some baseline requirements. And the reason why I popped it in here is because I think there was still a little bit of confusion or not really sure how it fits into the overall suitability process. But we really need that information into the system before we get started having people complete the application, because that information is used when the customer completes the online application portion of it, which includes the pre-screening and the suitability piece. So it does impact the customer. And if you don't have the information, if you don't have your training program information, then the system can't make a match, and that means that you won't get any customers assigned to your group. So today we are going to talk about the application piece, and then next week we're going to show you the actual suitability page and how you can look at the information and review it to make sure that that person is a suitable match for the programs that are being offered. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you my training program page, and let me go ahead and show you my screen here. Just one second. A few people did sign up for the technical assistance slot, or else they set up a different time so that we could get together. But I know that there was a little bit of a question about whenever you're actually entering in the information for the training program. Okay, I'm going to take one step back here. One other thing that I want to point out is that we do have instructions on how to complete the training program information. I'm going to throw those over on my screen too. Okay, and it has instructions on how to access that training program section. It has the information that's collected and additional information about, how that information is used or what, the purpose of and that information so you have it all at your fingertips. Okay. So whenever you log into WorkNet, you go to your partner tools, customer support center, you're going to click on resources and then your training program information. And you can, if you have access to more than one provider or agency, then you have to select the provider is, and then you can click add program, and it will bring up a form where you can start entering in all your training program information. Okay. Once you have entered, that's a delay here. Once you have entered in your information, you'll see it in your list. So you can edit that information at any time. So as you go through, well, here's my recommendation. First of all, go through the instructions, because that includes all the information that you're going to need for entering the training program information. And then you can go ahead and start filling this out. If along the way you find out that you don't have a certain piece of information, it's okay at this moment. Go ahead and continue to complete the form and save the information, and then just make sure that you go back and, clarify. For example, when I was working with a couple people, they wanted to know, well, what kind of information should I put in the description? Well, do you talk about your program, the career pathway, credentials that you may earn while participating in this program, and then, if there's any certain perks for participating in this particular program, because it's a way to kind of like sell your program. What number of participants you're expecting to serve, go ahead and enter that information in there. You can change it. It's okay. You can change it. The program contact. So the people that are the program contact are going to be the people that have access to this particular area in LMyWorkNet. So let's say that, Natasha Telker is I'm working with the youth. I'm maintaining information in my system. But, maybe Chelsea is the actual person that's doing the training. Since I'm the one that's maintaining the information in my system, then I would select me. If you wanted to give Chelsea access to the system, then you could do that. But just understand the program contact is whoever has access to this information in the system, because we need to know who to contact if information needs to be updated or if we have a question about the information. And I'm having my programmer update some of this text so that this is a little bit more clear, and adding info bubbles. The street address is not necessarily the street address of you as the provider. It's the street address, the city, state, zip code. All that information is about where the actual training program is. So if I'm working, if I'm with Mantricon, but I have, a provider, John A. Logan and Wren Lake, then I would put the training provider information for Wren Lake, the training provider for John A. Logan in this area. Okay. And one of the questions with, are these training programs also required to be entered into IWDS statewide training provider list? My assumption is yes, but I would need to have that information, specifically from Matt or Tara or, somebody, a DCO person. So we'll go ahead and get the answer to that question for you. Okay, so select the industry for the occupation. We have an area for selecting the NAICS code, and I realized that after working with some of the providers that some people aren't as familiar with NAICS codes, dot codes, zip codes, and so we're going to add some helper text so that you know what that means. And then we do have a lookup So you can click the NAICS code. If you don't see, or you can search by keyword, or you can just do a blind search. So if you just hit search, it's going to give you a listing. And some of these, they don't match up exactly. Do your best to match up, with the NAICS code. I have asked the programmers that once a NAICS code is selected, that it adds the code plus the title. So, you can make sure that we clicked on the right one and not accidentally select the wrong code. The same thing is similar with the SOC code. You can type in a keyword, or you can just hit search for a blind search of those codes. And this one populates the target occupation. And then the SIP code. So again, you can look up the SIP code if you, if you don't know and you're not the person that's providing the training, just ask the training provider for the SIP code. We do want you to go ahead and enter in this CIS URL link. It's not a required field on this form, but we really do want you to include this information, and I'll show you in a minute why. But you can just simply click on this link, navigate to the area that you're going to, that's your target occupation, and just simply, copy it, go back over here, and then paste it into the field. And then we get down to some of our baseline. We have minimum age, let's say, so some programs you may have to be 21 to get into the program, or maybe there's no age limit, minimum age. So in that case, I would just put, the minimum age for the program. And then time to complete. And do you offer any remediation or bridge programs? Identify the in-school or out-of-school youth as your target audience, and the institution type. So these this is about the actual training provider who's providing the training. So identify secondary or post-secondary. The goals of the program, how it's offered, and now we start to get into some of the things that would be the baseline requirements. So you can go ahead and answer these questions for the baseline requirements: minimum lifting, standing, sitting. Are any of these, required tests for, a lot of the healthcare fields require TB test or hepatitis screening. Many occupations require drug testing. The example we always use for the vision is, if you're going to be a forklift driver, you probably need to have vision. That's pretty self-explanatory. Appearance requirements, smell and taste requirements, those are often for the hospitality industry. Can you participate if you have motor vehicle tickets or instances? Again, that's a lot of times with the TDL areas, or if you need a valid driver's license. And then, for those over 18, we were asking to make a match based on if a background check is required, because if a person is, a registered sexual offender, then they're not going to be able to work with children or in some other areas. Okay, so one of the questions I had from a person was, well, isn't this information, or at least some of it is information, in IWDS or, another area they're maintaining that information? Well, it can be in IWDS. I believe we do ask some additional questions that are not in IWDS, and it's really important that it's in here and it's accurate, because it's going to be used to determine, to make matches with the Suitability online application that we're going to take a look at in just a moment. Okay, so did anybody have any questions about the adding in your training program? Okay, I don't see anybody typing, so, okay, great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and I'll just kind of move this over for just a second here. Then the next section is the online suitability application overview. So I have a sample person that's out on test, and I will walk through that process. But the main things that I want to point out that we've been talking about is this whole pre-screening piece. And so, as I mentioned before, it's really important that you have your training program information in there because it directly ties to this pre-screening piece. And if they don't ever get past this pre-screening piece, then they will never make it to the application. So we'll take a look at that now. So again, what you're going to take a look at is on test. We are continuing to test it because we want to make sure that all of the many instances where, in all the different scenarios where you can have, an application matching up to the baseline requirements, we want to make sure that those are 100% right. So we don't either allow a person in that shouldn't be into a program or exclude a person that should be able to be in the program. Okay. So I'm already logged in as a user. We'll get you more detailed instructions on how to direct people to this application. But for right now, for this demo purposes, right now we're just going to assume that I'm already logged in as a person, and I come to my agreement page. And so it basically says that they have voluntary questions to see if you're eligible for services. It'll be kept confidential, only for, record keeping and all kinds of good stuff. So what you'll do is click, I've read the terms of agreement, privacy policy, and agree to complete the application. So I go to the wheel of pre-screening. It's going to pull in the date of birth that's been associated with this account. So if the account date of birth is not correct, they have an opportunity to change this. So you'll see, like, if I say I believe this comes out that I'm 22 years old currently, and it says that I'm in school, then I'm not eligible for the program. But if I'm 22 years old and out of school, then I might be eligible for the program. So it'll say, do you meet the following criteria? Are you a school dropout, low income, subject to juvenile or adult justice system, homeless, runaway, pregnant, or parenting? So if you can meet the following criteria, actually I think we need to change this wording a little bit because it makes it sound like you have to be everything. So we'll work on changing that wording. But if they can say yes, then they can go on to the next page. Let's say, and also just to kind of show you that if I say no, then it's going to say that I don't qualify the program, and I'm going to have to use some of these other self-access resources. But for now, we're going to say yes, that I am in the program. And I'm going to go to the next page, and I'm going to complete the skills and interest inventory. Okay, so for step one, we have a link. Again, this is on test, so this person doesn't actually have a link to their actual career cluster inventory, but they would click on complete career cluster inventory, and I have one of mine that's uploaded up on the page. And so they would go to this page for getting started. They can go ahead and start. Oh yeah, it's been waiting too long. Sorry about that. Let me just go here real quick. They can go ahead, and that will be directly sent to their to the career cluster inventory instead of having to choose one of the four. And so for those who aren't familiar with the career cluster inventory, it's really simple. Do you like to go fishing? I like it very much. Like, not sure, no way. So you can go through and You can just simply answer these questions. And obviously, it's not going to give me a real answer because I'm not taking the time to actually read them. But you can see that all of them are very short, easy to read statements. And there are 80 questions. So I'm just going to kind of go through a few of these and hope I get some decent results. Let's go look at the results. Okay, so what you'll see is that I have, gives me the results in career cluster. So if I would have really answered them, I'm sure I would have had much more of a difference in my top 3 than everything else. So you can see I have government and public administration, hospitality, tourism, education and training, health science, human services. So let me go ahead. I've done that. I'm going to go ahead and now enter in my top 3 results. So of those top 3, I think I like health science the best, and then education, and I believe my other one was government. Okay, so I enter in those items, and I go to the next page, and I have to select my organization. Now, an update that we're going to have, that I have asked my programmers to do, is to put the distance and mileage. So it's going to take a look at the customer's address and compare it to the address of your, of the training, of the actual organization. So you can see like Mantricon, QR Public Schools. And since I am on test, I'm going to go ahead and use Youth-Build McLean County. And then it's going to say, oh, well, there is one or more program that may be a match, because what it's doing is taking a look at that training program information that Youth-Build entered into the system, and it's comparing it to those industries that I had just entered into my skills and interest area. So we're going to pretty this up a little bit more. So I'd like to have an icon here for the industry, and then a little box, so it's easy to see the different programs and easily group the information for that program. So you have a little bit of work to do on that before it's released. But I want to point out that the first link here is the healthcare link, and you'll see that it's all the information that, in my example, Youth-Build has entered into this program, is all available for the customer to take a look at this. And that's why it's really important to have like the program description and the information as accurate as possible, because again, it's about like selling the program and what are the benefits. Is this something that you're really going to be interested in? And then the next link, this is the field that I said wasn't required, but we really, really want you to put the information there. The link there is the link for career information. So they can select that career information link, and they can look at all different types of fun facts about that particular career. Okay? So the idea is that they can make the educated decision on if they want to participate or not. Okay? So then they're asked, are you are eligible, or do you want to see if you're eligible? Because we still have a few more things to check out. But at this point in time, they can say, yes, I want to participate, or nah, that doesn't really sound like a good program for me. But of course, we're doing the demo, so we want to participate. Okay, so now we get into the baseline questions. And this information will be used, it'll be collected in Illinois WorkNet and saved with the person's information. And this is going to help populate that suitability page that I talked about, that we're going to talk about next week. So right now, just know that they're entering this information in, and you will be able to use this information in the future. For one, it's going to use some of the information to make a match for recommended programs, and then two, it'll be available in the person's profile or their customer information, so that you can verify that it's a good match for that program, but then also for using it to help them with like developing their and other, ISTEP, their Individualized Services Training and Employment Plan. Okay, so these are all just, simple questions. You know, when are you able to work? What kind of work would you like to do? Where do you want to be in a year? This is just a text box. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And what type of stuff have you already done to figure out where you want to be in your career exploration path or process? And then what are some of your strengths? It's a text box. You can type that information in and go to the next page. So now we're in training delivery. How long are you willing to commit? How is the class offered? What are you available to do? None of these things right here, I mean, this is all like for more information, like whenever you talk with the person to, say, well, you said that you were only interested for something up to 24 weeks, but do you realize that this program is 52 weeks? Is it something, how do you feel about that? Are you able to make that commitment? So you might have those type of conversations. And then how are they able to get to the location, and how far are they willing to travel? Then we have the physical demands. Again, these will not keep them from, well, some of these will not keep them from being matched up with a program. So like the heaviest load, so less than 25 pounds, which is the average weight of a 2-year-old, 30 to 40 pounds, it's about 4 gallons or 5 gallons of water, 50 pounds, bale of hay, or 55 pounds. So you can pick one of those. How longest amount of time you're willing to stand or able to stand. Are you able to sit for long periods of time? Now, the next question, which one of these do you think you'd be able to pass? A TB test or a hepatitis screening? Those are often, I may have mentioned this already, for the healthcare industry. Would you be able to pass a drug test? Technically, they don't have to answer this question because they have to answer it, but they can choose the selection, I'm not interested in careers that require a drug test. So if they chose that option, it's only going to link them up with programs that don't require a drug test. Okay, so the Eyesight, that's a required question, and it does need to match up with the baseline requirements for the program. Appearance, I'm willing to make changes. I'm able to taste and tolerate smells, so I can go on to the next page. And then we have some other items. Do you have 3 or more tickets or instances in the past 3 years? No. Are you able to get a valid driver's license? We'll just say yes. And if you are over 18, it'll ask the question about the background check. So some employers will require a background check. So which situations apply to you? So they could check more than one, or they could say none of the above apply to me. And then which languages do they speak fluently? So you could add a couple in there. Okay, so this is, we left this open just so you could kind of see an example of, if you had multiple training programs, again, you'd have the boxes around each. But we just wanted to show you that, it's going to do a check. The validation hasn't been pushed out to test yet because we are still going through some testing on that. And so if they matched the baseline requirements, all matched together, and they saw that this was one of the programs that they wanted to do, they could go ahead and choose to submit an application. Okay. Okay. Yep, I see that Stephanie had a question on can they mark more than one option, and Chelsea had asked, is that the training program? Because, and I guess I should just wait for your response, but just so everybody knows, and at this point in time, we're just checking all the options that are available for that provider that might be a good option for that customer. So at this point in time, they're not selecting any particular training program. They're just answering the questions, and then based on that, then the system will make recommendations. And then like next week we'll talk about the suitability page and reviewing all that information and how that can be used for making a match. Okay. If it will take any type of job. Oh yeah. Okay. I see. For your employment goals. You know, we can definitely make that. Yeah, I think it's a radio button. So the question is, I'm assuming, can we make that multi-select? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Okay. Okay, so now we are in the application, and it's going to populate the application with the information that's currently available. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and copy some information in here. And again, I hate to always say this, but I am on test, so I'm always a little leery about making sure I have the right, selecting a social number that's not already been used on test. Let's hope that we chose a unique social number here. Okay, so that populates my information. We need to add a phone number in here. Ooh, 16 digits. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next page. Now, if a person already has their Social Security number in their account, it will pre-populate this page with their Social Security number. It'll be in the form of XXX. Let me just go back to that page real quick. It might make me. Okay, so this is what it'll look like. XXX dash XX, and then showing the last four. And now, because I can't remember what I just put, I think this is what I put. They would have to confirm that the Social Security number is correct, and it's not because I can't remember what I put in there. But if we happen to have the wrong Social Security number in there, then they can change it. So that we just want to make sure that we have the correct information. Okay. And then the gender, again, they can do prefer not to answer, military status. They can choose more than one or choose prefer not to answer, which clears out everything. Are you authorized to work in the U.S.? Yes. You can choose your highest level of education. You know, can you still perform the job you've been trained in? Yes, no, or haven't been trained for a specific job. They can enter in any degree, certificates, license, or credentials, but it's not required. But they can add that to the list. We'll ask them if you've ever had a job. If you haven't ever had a job, then it's going to automatically default the employment status to not in labor force. If you have had a job, you'll have the option of selecting employed, not in labor force, unemployed, employed but received notice of termination. So if you have had a job, then you are asked to, actually it's required, to enter in past employer information. We just require employer name, are you currently employed or not, start date. If you're not employed, then if you're employed, you don't have to put the end date. Your job title, you don't have to have the street address or anything like that, just the city and state and zip code. Enter in your job duties, hours per week, and does this job meet your needs, why or why not? And then you can add that. For time's sake, I'm just going to say, no, I haven't ever had a job before. And then I'm going to identify my potential barriers. So which of the following do you think will make it hard to get a job? You can enter as many as you would like or have no barriers. If I select disability, then I'm prompted to ask or answer another question, but I'm not required to do so. So we have a statement here, you're not required to answer this question, but you may be eligible for more programs or financial assistance if you do. So I could answer a couple of those, go to the next page. And then we always ask, how did you hear about Illinois WorkNet? So it could be from family or friends or Illinois WorkNet Center, and then save and go to the next page. And what you'll see is the overview of all the information that was entered in about this for this customer, and the customer's entering this information in, but they can review to make sure it's accurate, and then they would submit the application. Okay. Once they submit the application, they can't make any changes. But next week, when we talk about the suitability screening area, we'll show you how you will be able to access their pre-screening and application information. And if it needs to be updated, you can do so at that time. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. Then let me go ahead and move my screen share out of the way so we can talk about the next thing. Okay. So the next area is the interim suitability process. And I guess I will put my screen share back up here because I'm just going to show you the document. Some people are already in the process of rolling this out. And so we just wanted to make sure that we gave you some information, some guidance, because the suitability information will be required for those customers. So we want to make sure that we provided the information up front so you could do your suitability assessment. So we make sure that the right customers are getting into the program. But even though you're doing this, outside of the system, once the information is out there and available, which they'll be next week, they'll be able to go ahead and use the application. You'll still have to have all the suitability information in Illinois WorkNet. So we do have a one-pager that talks about, the different eligibility requirements. And then we have reference to the career cluster inventory, so some instructions on how to get to the career cluster inventory and to identify those career cluster areas, the top 3. And then just some guiding questions. So does your organization offer a program that's in one of those 3 career pathways for the customer? If not, then they should not be put in the program. If so, then go ahead and continue on with the following baseline questions. So basically right here, it identifies those baseline questions. Does the program require TB hepatitis screening, yes or no? If they do, can they pass it? If not, then you can move on to the next question. So all of these questions are basically in that same real simplified format that covers the basic baseline questions. Okay. Alrighty, so that's the interim suitability process. Okay, so feel free to type in any questions that you might have, but we'll go ahead and start talking about next steps. So if you haven't already, go ahead and enter those training programs into the system as well as with all the baseline requirements. And if you don't have, or the appropriate person doesn't have access to enter those training programs, please let us know. You can send an email to info@illinoisworknet.com. put that out there for you in just a moment. And then once you do that, next week we will be releasing the online suitability application, so your customers will be able to access the application, and we'll have instructions out there so that you can go ahead and have those. Oh, yep. Chelsea went ahead and put it in there, info@onlyworknet.com. Thank you. So we'll send out instructions. We'll update the page that has those resources. So you'll be able to start using the online suitability application next week. So basically, that's just kind of like the kickstart to getting some of that information into the system. And then next week, our webinar will cover the suitability page. So all the information is basically taking that program information and your customer's information and pulling it all together on a page so that you can easily review all that information. If you have a person that doesn't have access to the tools that we're looking at today, then go ahead and follow these instructions for setting up your account, because we need to make sure that you have an account and that you're set up, with your partner in our Illinois WorkNet Service Finder, and because we have all of our partners matched up with our partner organizations. And then you'll send an email requesting access, and so we'll get, once we have that information verified, then we'll go ahead and update your account to give you access to these tools. One thing I do want to point out is that where you can find the information that we're talking about today. Okay, so let me make sure I have my right screen up here. So if you go to, okay, let me just go ahead and start from the beginning here. We go to illinoisworknet.com. You can always get any of our partner resources. You can access them. We have a short URL, illinoisworknet.com/partners. But you can also access us from the footer of any of our Illinois WorkNet pages. So we have partner resources. And then as you scroll down, you'll see program guides for partners. So these are intended for you, not for your customers, they're for the partners. So you'll go to Youth Apprenticeship Career Pathway Partner Guide. And we're still building this out. You may see some changes. We have some ideas on enhancing the layout of the page. We haven't completely worked that out yet, but all the information that we've been talking about is available in this training and materials videos page. I went ahead and I have our information from today's webinar on this page. We have the link to the PDF, the training program instructions, interim suitability form. Once the instructions for accessing the application are available, I can update this page with that information as well. And then tomorrow, we'll have an archived version of this webinar up in this playlist. So if you missed last week's, you can go ahead and look at it, but we pretty much covered everything today that was also covered last week. So, all right. Any last minute questions? All right. Oh, I see some typing. Double check, make sure. Okay. Well, thank you. And if you have any questions, you start using this and after the fact, always send the information to info@illinoisworknet.com. And then if, one of us is, tied up in a meeting or off-site, then we can direct your question to a person that can help you. All right. Well, thank you very much. Everyone have a great day.